The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, people looked up at the night sky and dreamed of what waited beyond. They built rockets. They landed on their moon. They sent machines to distant planets. And finally, after centuries of work, they found a way to travel faster than light. The first human colony ship crossed into unknown space on a cold morning in December. The ship was called the Dawn Seeker, and it carried 10,000 brave souls looking for a new home. They did not know that their journey would change the galaxy forever. Far away, on a world called Velar Prime, ancient eyes watched the humans arrive. The Galactic Council had ruled this part of space for 12,000 years. They were made up of 7 powerful species who had conquered or controlled every civilization they encountered. The Vellani were the oldest and most powerful. The Droth were warriors. The Korim were traders. Together with 4 other species, they controlled thousands of star systems. Their rule was simple. Every new species had to pay tribute. They demanded resources, technology, and soldiers. No one ever refused. Those who tried were destroyed completely. Their planets were burned. Their people were killed or enslaved. The Council had done this so many times that they no longer expected anyone to say no. High Arbiter Mora sat in her chamber on Velar Prime and studied the reports about the humans. She was old, even by Vellani standards, and had seen hundreds of species bow before the Council. These humans would be no different. "Send Ambassador Kelos," she ordered. "Tell him to deliver the standard tribute demand. Give them 1 rotation to accept." Ambassador Kelos was a patient Vellani with 4 cold eyes and a voice like silk covering steel. He had delivered the tribute demand to 37 species in his career. All of them had accepted. Most had cried. Some had begged. A few had tried to negotiate. But in the end, they all knelt. His ship arrived at the edge of human space 3 days later. He sent a message requesting communication with their leaders. The response came quickly. Too quickly, he thought. Most species took hours to respond, paralyzed by fear when they saw a Council vessel. The human ship that appeared on his screen was called the Defiance. It was smaller than his own vessel, but built in a strange way. The design was efficient and aggressive, like a predator ready to strike. Kelos felt something he had not felt in centuries. It was small and distant, but it was there. Unease. Admiral Park J stood on the bridge of the Defiance with his hands clasped behind his back. He was 53 years old, with gray hair cut short, and eyes that had seen both war and peace. Beside him stood Fleet Commander Kim Soo, a tall woman with a sharp mind for tactics, and Chief Diplomat Yoon Hana, who had spent 20 years preparing for first contact with alien life. "Ambassador Kelos of the Galactic Council," Yoon Hana said politely. "We welcome this opportunity to communicate. Humanity comes in peace and hopes for friendship between our peoples." Kelos almost laughed. Friendship. How naive these creatures were. "I am not here for friendship," he replied. His translator turned his words into their language. "I am here to deliver the tribute order of the Galactic Council. You will listen carefully. Humans, your future depends on it." He began to read the document. His voice was calm and practiced. He explained that humanity was now under Council jurisdiction. They would provide 30% of their mineral output every cycle. They would send 5,000 soldiers annually to serve in Council military forces. They would share all technology with the Council. They would accept Council law above their own. They would submit completely and permanently. "You have 1 standard rotation to comply." Kelos finished. "The Council awaits your tribute. Or your surrender. There is no third option. Species that refuse are removed from existence. This is not a threat. It is simply what happens. Choose wisely." The transmission ended. The bridge of the Defiance fell silent. Every officer stood frozen, processing what they had just heard. Slavery. The aliens were demanding slavery. Wrapped in fancy words, Admiral Park turned to his officers. His face showed no fear. His hands did not shake. "Comments?" he asked quietly. Kim Soo stepped forward. "Sir, our fleet is outnumbered. Our intelligence suggests they have thousands of warships. We have less than 100 ready for combat. Yoon Hana added, diplomatically, we could try to negotiate, perhaps reduce the tribute demands, buy time to build our forces. Park listened to both of them. He respected their views. But he had already made his decision. He had made it the moment he heard the word, submit. Dr. Kang, he said into his communicator, are we ready? On Earth, in a secret facility beneath the mountains of Korea, Dr. Kang Nari looked at the screens surrounding her. Years of classified research. Weapons the Council could not imagine, defense systems that could protect their entire solar system. Humanity had been preparing for this day. Even if they did not know exactly what they were preparing for. We are ready, Admiral, she replied. Park nodded. He looked at his communications officer. Open a channel, all frequencies, maximum range. Let every ship in this sector hear what I am about to say. The officer's fingers moved across the console. Channel open, sir. Broadcasting to all frequencies. Admiral Park Jae looked directly at the camera. He thought about Earth. He thought about the 8 billion people living their lives, raising their children, dreaming their dreams. He thought about every generation that had fought for freedom, from ancient times to the present day. Humanity had faced tyrants before. They had faced empires. They had faced gods themselves, and they had never stopped fighting. He spoke one word. No. The transmission ended. Across the sector, every ship that received the broadcast fell silent. On Kelos's vessel, the ambassador stared at his screen in disbelief. He replayed the message 3 times, certain he had missed something. A negotiation. A counteroffer. A plea for mercy. There was none of that. Just one word. One impossible, unthinkable word. No. Kelos opened a channel to Valar Prime. His hands, for the first time in centuries, were trembling. High Arbiter, he said. We have a problem. In the Chamber of Stars on Valar Prime, Mora received the report. She played the human transmission and heard the word that no species had ever spoken to the Council. Her 4 eyes narrowed. Her ancient heart beat faster with something between rage and curiosity. Interesting, she whispered. Then she turned to her military advisors. Prepare the enforcement fleet. It seems we need to teach these humans what that word costs. But deep in her mind, in a place she would never admit existed, Mora felt a cold finger of doubt. The human's eyes had shown no fear. None at all, and in 12,000 years of rule, she had never seen that before. The word traveled across the stars. Civilizations that had bowed for thousands of years heard it and felt something stir in their hearts. On slave planets and tribute worlds, beings whispered the word to each other like a secret prayer. No, humanity had spoken. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The word spread faster than any ship could travel. Within hours, every major civilization in the Orion Arm had heard what the humans said. News channels on 100 worlds reported the story. Scholars debated its meaning. Military leaders studied their maps and wondered what would come next. On the Council homeworld of Valar Prime, High Arbiter Mora called an emergency meeting of all 7 species. The Chamber of Stars was an ancient hall built from crystal and metal, designed to inspire fear and respect. Holographic projections of each counselor filled the room, their images flickering with tension. They said one word. Mora began, her voice sharp as broken glass. Not a negotiation. Not a plea. Not even a proper threat. Just, no. Counselor Bren of the Droth shifted his massive form. He was a warrior, covered in thick scales and battle scars. Perhaps they do not understand what we are. Perhaps they need a demonstration of our power. I spoke with their admiral directly, Ambassador Kelos replied. He stood at the edge of the chamber, still shaken by what he had witnessed. They understand perfectly. I have delivered the tribute demand to dozens of species. I know fear when I see it. These humans showed none. Then they are fools, said Counselor Vrix of the Quorum. Fools who will die screaming like all the others. But Kelos shook his head slowly. I do not think they are fools. I think they are something else. Something we have not seen before. Mora silenced them with a wave of her hand. It does not matter what they are. The law is clear. Refuse tribute, face destruction. We have done this countless times. We will do it again. The enforcement fleet will make an example of them. Their little planet will burn, and every other species will remember why they pay. The counselors agreed. Orders were sent. 300 warships began gathering at the rally point. It was the largest enforcement action in 200 years. But Mora wanted to send a message: defy the Council, and you cease to exist. Far away, on Earth, humanity was not waiting. President Li Te addressed the United Nations of Earth from the Great Assembly Hall in New Geneva. Every screen on the planet showed his face. Every person stopped to listen. My fellow humans, he began. By now you have heard what happened. An alien council has demanded that we surrender our freedom. They want our resources. They want our soldiers. They want us to kneel and serve them forever. Admiral Park gave them our answer. He paused, letting the weight of the moment settle. That answer was no, and it will always be no. Humanity did not crawl out of caves, survive ice ages, build civilizations, and reach the stars just to become slaves. We have faced tyrants before. We have faced empires before. They all thought they could break us. They were all wrong. The assembly erupted in cheers. Across Earth, people gathered in streets and squares, holding signs and chanting. They were scared. Yes, the aliens had been traveling space for thousands of years while humans were still learning. But fear did not mean surrender. It never had. In a secure bunker beneath the mountains of Korea, General Choi Woo met with Earth's military leaders. Maps of the solar system covered every wall. Officers moved markers and studied data streams. They will come with overwhelming force, General Choi said. Our intelligence suggests somewhere between 200 and 400 ships. We have 83 combat-ready vessels. Admiral Park stood beside him, arms crossed. Numbers are not everything. Tell them about the projects. General Choi nodded and activated a classified file. The words Project Thunderstrike appeared on the main screen. For the past 50 years, humanity has been preparing for the possibility of hostile contact. We did not know what we would face, but we knew we had to be ready. Project Thunderstrike is our answer. The screen showed schematics of weapons that had never been revealed to the public. Ships equipped with artificial intelligence that could learn and adapt during combat. Missiles that could change direction mid-flight. Shield technology that absorbed energy and redirected it. We also have Project Deeproot. Dr. Kang Nari added. She was the lead scientist on Earth's most secret programs. A network of defense platforms hidden throughout our solar system. If they come, they will fly into a trap. Fleet Commander Kim Soo studied the data. It might work, but we need more than weapons. We need to understand how they fight. We need intelligence. We are working on that, President Lee said through the communication link. Diplomat Yoon Hana has made contact with species that are unhappy with Council rule. Not everyone in the galaxy supports them. This was true. The Council ruled through fear, not loyalty. Many species paid tribute because they had no choice, not because they wanted to. Some of them had been watching humanity with great interest. The Mirren were one such species. They were small beings with large eyes and quick hands, forced to work as servants and mechanics for Council ships. A Mirren named Polo had risked everything to send a message to Earth. We have been waiting for someone like you, the message said. Someone who would say no. We can help you. We know their ships. We know their weaknesses. We know where they are vulnerable. Similar messages came from the Thos, whose homeworld had been stripped of resources centuries ago. From the Keldi, whose population had been reduced to workers in Council factories. From dozens of other species who lived under the Council's boot. Humanity was not alone. They just needed to survive long enough for the galaxy to wake up. On the Defiance, Admiral Park reviewed the battle plans one final time. His officers surrounded him. Each one focused and determined. They expect us to run or beg, he said quietly. Every species they have ever encountered has done one or the other. That is their weakness. They do not know how to fight someone who stands firm. Captain Shin-Ara spoke up. She commanded the destroyer Soul's Fury and had a reputation for creative tactics. If we can draw them into the asteroid field near Jupiter, we can use the terrain to our advantage. Their big ships will have trouble maneuvering. Lieutenant Baek Jin, weapons specialist, added, Our adaptive systems will analyze their weapons during the first exchange. By the second wave, we will know how to counter them. Park nodded. Good. But remember, we are not trying to destroy them completely. We need to hurt them enough that they doubt themselves. We need to show the galaxy that the Council can be fought. Quote, he looked at each of his officers. These were good people. Brave people. They had families back on Earth. Dreams and hopes and plans for the future. They might all die in the coming battle. I will not lie to you, Park said. The odds are not in our favor. Many of us will not survive what is coming. But our children will live free. Our grandchildren will look up at the stars. Without fear, that is worth fighting for. That is worth dying for. The officers saluted. No one spoke. No one needed to. Back on Velar Prime, Fleet Commander Voris boarded his flagship, the Eternal Wrath. He was a veteran of 17 enforcement actions and had never lost. The humans would be his 18th victory. How long until we reach their system? He asked his navigation officer. 12 days at standard speed, Commander. Voris smiled. Make it 8. I want to catch them before they can prepare. He did not know that humanity was already prepared. He did not know about the weapons waiting in the darkness of space. He did not know that his entire understanding of war was about to be proven wrong. As his fleet jumped to lightspeed, Admiral Park received one final message from President Lee. The people of Earth are with you, Admiral. Every last one of us. Give them hell. Park read the message and smiled for the first time in days. That is exactly what we intend to do, Mr. President. The countdown had begun. In 8 days, the galaxy would witness something it had never seen before. A species that refused to kneel. A species that would rather burn than bow. In 8 days, the war would begin. And nothing would ever be the same again. The enforcement fleet arrived at the edge of human space on a day that would be remembered for centuries. 300 warships dropped out of lightspeed in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the marks of 1,000 victories. Commander Voris stood on the bridge of his flagship and smiled at the sight. Begin scanning, he ordered. Find their fleet and show me what we face. His officers worked quickly. Data streams filled the screens around him. The human fleet was gathering near the 4th planet, a large world with a famous ring of ice and rock. 83 ships. Just as intelligence had reported, 83 against 300, Voris said with a cold laugh. This will be over before lunch. Signal all ships to advance. Standard assault formation. The fleet began moving toward Saturn. Voris had destroyed civilizations with fewer ships than this. He expected the humans to scatter when they saw his forces approaching. Perhaps a few brave fools would try to fight. They would die quickly. Then he would proceed to Earth and burn their cities one by one until the survivors begged for mercy. But the human fleet did not scatter. They did not run. Instead, they moved to meet the Council forces, arranging themselves in a pattern Voris had never seen before. What are they doing? He muttered. That formation makes no sense. On the Defiance, Admiral Park watched the enemy approach with calm eyes. Beside him, Kim Soo coordinated the fleet movements, while their AI systems processed every piece of data from the approaching armada. They are using standard Council assault formation, Kim Soo reported. Heavy ships in the center, cruisers on the flanks, destroyers screening. Predictable. They have been fighting the same way for thousands of years, Park replied. They see no reason to change. That is their weakness. He opened a channel to all human ships. All vessels, this is Admiral Park. Hold position until they enter the kill zone. Let them think they have us cornered. When I give the signal, execute pattern Delta. Show them what humans can do. Captain Shin Ara gripped the arms of her command chair on the Soul's Fury. Her heart was pounding, but her mind was clear. She had trained for this moment her entire career. Around her, officers worked their stations with focused determination. "Lieutenant Bake, weapons status?" she asked. "All systems ready, Captain." Adaptive targeting online. We will learn their shield frequencies within 30 seconds of first contact. OP. End quote. Good. Remember, we hit them fast and move before they can respond. Do not let them lock onto us. The Council fleet closed the distance. 100,000 kilometers. 80,000. 50,000. Voris frowned at his tactical display. They are not moving. Why are they not moving? Perhaps they are paralyzed with fear, Commander, an officer suggested. Perhaps, Voris replied, but something felt wrong. These humans had refused tribute. They had spoken that impossible word. Paralysis did not match their behavior. "Open fire," he ordered. "All forward batteries. Let us see how brave they are when they burn." The Council fleet unleashed a massive barrage. Thousands of energy beams and missiles streaked toward the human formation. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon, but the human ships moved. They did not move like any ships Voris had ever seen. They scattered in what appeared to be complete chaos, each vessel darting in a different direction. Yet somehow, they avoided nearly every shot. The few weapons that connected were absorbed by shields that glowed and pulsed with strange energy. "Impossible," Voris whispered. "How are they dodging? Their ships are not that fast." The answer was simple but revolutionary. Human ships were linked by neural AI systems that shared information instantly. When one ship detected an incoming attack, all ships knew about it at the same time. They moved as one mind spread across 83 bodies, anticipating and avoiding fire with inhuman precision. And then they counterattacked. Admiral Park spoke one word into his communicator. Now, the human fleet reformed in an instant, concentrating their fire on the Council's right flank. Voris watched in horror as a heavy cruiser exploded, then another, then 3 more. The humans were not firing randomly. They were targeting specific weak points with surgical accuracy. "Return fire," Voris screamed. "Concentrate on their lead ships." The Council fleet adjusted, pouring energy into the attacking human vessels. This time, some shots connected. A human destroyer broke apart under the barrage. Another limped away with fires burning across its hull. But the humans adapted. Their AI systems analyzed every shot, learned the Council weapons patterns, and adjusted shield harmonics in real time. The second wave of Council fire was less effective. The third wave, even less so. Captain Shin Ara drove the Soul's Fury straight into the heart of the enemy formation. It was insane. It was suicidal. It was exactly what the Council could not predict. "Target the flagship's shield generators," she ordered. "Full power to forward weapons." Lieutenant Bake's fingers flew across his console. Firing. Precision strikes hit the eternal wrath in rapid succession. Voris felt his ship shake as shield after shield failed. Warning alarms screamed throughout the bridge. "Get us out of here," he shouted. "Pull back. All ships pull back." But the human fleet would not let them go easily. As the Council forces tried to retreat, human ships harassed them constantly, picking off wounded vessels and preventing organized withdrawal. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it finally ended, the Council had lost 273 ships. Humanity had lost 31. Voris sat in his damaged command chair, staring at the casualty reports. More than half his fleet was gone, destroyed by a species that had only been traveling space for a few centuries, destroyed by 83 ships against 300. "This is not possible," he whispered. "This cannot be happening." He opened a channel to Velar Prime with shaking hands. High Arbiter Mora's face appeared on his screen, and he saw her expression change from anger to confusion to something close to fear. As he delivered his report, "They adapt too fast," Voris explained. "Their ships learn during the battle. What works against them once never works again. They fight like nothing we have ever seen. They are not like the others, High Arbiter. They are something new. Mora was silent for a long moment. In 12,000 years, the Council had never lost an enforcement action. Their military power was legendary. Their reputation was built on the certainty that they could not be beaten. That certainty was now gone. "Return to Villar Prime," she finally ordered. "We need to discuss this with the full Council." On the Defiance, Admiral Park looked out at the battlefield. Debris from destroyed ships floated in the darkness. Human crews were already working to recover escape pods from both sides. Even in victory, there was sorrow. Good people had died today. Kim Soo approached him quietly. "Sir, we have won. The enemy is retreating. We have won this battle." Park corrected her. "The war is just beginning. They will come back with more ships, more weapons. We need to be ready." He turned to address his crew. Their faces were tired but proud. They had done the impossible. They had stood against the masters of the galaxy and made them run. "Today we proved something," Park said. "We proved that the Council can be beaten. We proved that courage and intelligence matter more than numbers. We proved that humanity will never kneel. Send word to Earth. Tell them what happened here. And tell them to prepare. This is only the beginning." Across the galaxy, the news spread like fire through dry grass. The humans had won. A fleet of 83 ships had destroyed most of an armada of 300. Species that had been slaves for centuries heard the news and began to hope. On the prison world of Mirren Prime, workers looked up at the sky and whispered to each other. On the factory planets of the Keldi, assembly lines slowed as rumors spread. On a dozen tribute worlds, beings who had forgotten what freedom felt like began to remember. Humanity had not just won a battle. They had lit a spark that would grow into a fire. And the Council, for the first time in 12,000 years, was afraid. Panic spread through the Chamber of Stars like poison through blood. The 7 species of the Galactic Council gathered in emergency session, their holographic forms flickering with barely contained fear. For the first time in 12,000 years, they faced something they did not know how to handle. High Arbiter Mora stood at the center of the chamber, trying to project calm she did not feel. The reports from Commander Voris played on repeat in her mind. Adapting ships, learning weapons, a species that fought like nothing they had ever seen. "We must respond with overwhelming force," demanded Counselor Vrix of the Quorum. "Gather the Grand Armada. Every ship from every system. Crush these humans before their example spreads." "And if we lose again?" asked Counselor Bren quietly. The old Droth warrior had seen many battles in his life. He knew that some enemies could not be defeated by force alone. "We will not lose," Vrix snapped. "We have thousands of ships. They have less than 100. We had 300, Bren reminded him. Now we have less than 30. Mora raised a hand for silence. "The Grand Armada is our final option. We have never needed to use it. But these humans have forced our hand. We will gather every ship we have. 2,000 warships against their 80. No species can survive those odds." Ambassador Kellos, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. "High Arbiter, may I speak?" Mora nodded impatiently. "I spent time studying these humans," Kellos said. "Their history is filled with wars against impossible odds. They have a saying, 'It is not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog.' I do not fully understand what dogs are, but the meaning is clear. They do not measure victory by numbers." "What do you suggest we do?" Mora asked coldly. "Negotiate? After what they did to our fleet? I suggest we be careful," Kellos replied. "That is all." Meanwhile, humanity was not waiting for the Council's next move. Admiral Park had authorized Operation Starfall, a series of precision strikes designed to show that human reach extended far beyond their home system. 3 small fleets of 10 ships each jumped to lightspeed, heading for Council military installations in 3 different sectors. Their mission was not to destroy but to demonstrate. To prove that the Council's territory was no longer safe, Captain Shin Ara led the first strike team. Her target was a supply station in the Keldi system, where Council ships refueled and rearmed. The station was protected by 12 warships and considered impenetrable. The Soul's Fury dropped out of lightspeed at the edge of the system, followed by 9 other vessels. Shin Ara studied the tactical display and smiled. "They are not expecting us," she observed. "Look at their formation. Half their ships are powered down for maintenance." Lieutenant Baekjin ran calculations on his console. "We can disable the station's shields with concentrated fire on the primary generator. It will take approximately 45 seconds. Make it 30, Shin Ara ordered. "We need to be gone before reinforcements arrive. All ships, attack pattern. Falcon, execute." The human fleet struck like lightning. They appeared from behind a nearby moon, using its mass to mask their approach, and opened fire before the Council ships could react. Baekjin's targeting was perfect. The station's shields flickered and died in 28 seconds. "Target the station's communication array," Shin Ara commanded. "I want them blind and silent." More precision strikes. The station went dark. 2 Council ships managed to power up and return fire, but the human fleet was already moving, dancing between attacks with the fluid grace that had shocked Commander Vorus. Then, as quickly as they had come, the humans jumped away. The entire attack lasted 4 minutes. When Council reinforcements arrived an hour later, they found a crippled station, 2 destroyed ships, and a message broadcasting on all frequencies. The Council's reach has limits. Humanity does not. Similar attacks happened in 2 other systems. Each one followed the same pattern: strike fast, hit hard, and vanish before the enemy could respond. Each one left behind the same message. Each one proved that nowhere in Council space was truly safe. On Earth, a different kind of revolution was taking place. Species that had suffered under Council rule for generations began making secret contact with humanity. The trickle of messages became a flood. Dr. Kang Nari worked around the clock with her team to process the incoming intelligence. Star charts from the Thos showed hidden Council bases. Technical specifications from the Mirren revealed weaknesses in Council shield technology. Economic data from the Keldi demonstrated how dependent the Council was on tribute from enslaved worlds. "They are hollow," Dr. Kang reported to President Lee. "Their empire is built on fear, not strength. If enough species resist at the same time, the entire system collapses." President Lee studied the data. He was not a soldier. He was a diplomat and a builder. But he understood what this information meant. "We need to reach them," he said. "Not just receive their messages, but talk to them. Coordinate with them. Show them they are not alone." Dr. Kang nodded. "I have been working on something. We call it the Resonance Network. A communication system that uses quantum entanglement to send messages instantly across any distance. The Council cannot intercept it, cannot trace it, cannot stop it. How soon can it be operational? It already is. We have been testing it for 6 months. We just needed someone to talk to." President Lee looked at the screen showing a map of Council space. Thousands of systems. Hundreds of species. Billions of beings living in chains. "Then let us give them something to believe in." The first message went out 3 days later. It reached the Mirren first, then the Thos, then the Keldi, then dozens of other species. President Lee's voice carried across the stars, translated into 1,000 languages. "My name is Lee Tae, President of the United Nations of Earth. You do not know us yet, but you have heard what we did. We said no to the Council. We fought their fleet and won. We are still here, and we are still fighting." He paused, letting his words settle. "We are not conquerors. We do not want your worlds or your resources. We want something simpler. We want you to be free. The Council rules through fear. They make you believe that resistance is impossible, but we have proven them wrong. We are proof that tyranny can be challenged. We are proof that one word, spoken with courage, can change everything. Stand with us. Not as subjects, not as servants, as equals, as allies. Together, we are stronger than any fleet. Together, we can build a galaxy where no one kneels. Together, we can make them afraid." The message ended, and across the galaxy, beings who had forgotten hope began to remember it. On Mirren Prime, Workers gathered in secret and pledged their support. On Thos 4, a resistance movement that had been hiding for centuries came out of the shadows. On Keldy manufacturing stations, production began to slow as workers organized strikes. The council was losing control. Not through military defeat, but through something they had not faced in 12,000 years. Rebellion. High Arbiter Mora received reports of unrest in 47 systems within a single week. Labor disputes, supply shortages, communication blackouts. 1,000 small acts of defiance that added up to something much larger. Find the source of these transmissions, she ordered. Find it and destroy it. But the resonance network could not be found. It existed everywhere and nowhere. A web of whispers, connecting the oppressed across the stars. Admiral Park received word of the spreading resistance and allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. They were no longer fighting alone. Every day, more species joined their cause. Every day, the council grew weaker. This is how empires fall, he said quietly to Kim Soo. Not from outside attacks, but from inside decay. The council built their power on fear. Now that fear is turning against them, Kim Soo nodded. But they will still fight. The Grand Armada is gathering. 2,000 ships. This will be the battle that decides everything. Park looked out at the stars. Then we must make sure we are ready. And that we are not alone. He opened a channel to President Lee. Sir, it is time to call in our allies. When the council comes, they need to see something they never expected. They need to see a galaxy united against them. The final battle was approaching. And humanity would not face it alone. The Grand Armada was the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. 2,000 warships gathered at Valar Prime. Their hulls decorated with symbols of victory from 12,000 years of conquest. High Arbiter Mora herself would lead them aboard the massive dreadnought Eternal Order. This was not just a battle. This was the Council showing the galaxy that their rule could not be challenged. Today, we end the human threat, Mora announced to her fleet commanders. Today, we remind every species in the galaxy why they pay tribute. Today, we restore order. The Armada jumped to lightspeed, a wave of destruction aimed at a small blue planet called Earth. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the long-range sensors. The enemy fleet would arrive in 6 hours. Their numbers were overwhelming, 2,000 against less than 100 human ships. By every logical measure, humanity should surrender. But Park was not thinking about surrender. He was thinking about something else entirely. Sir, Kim Soo reported. We are receiving transmissions. Multiple sources. They are coming from the Keldy system. From Mirren Prime. From Thos 4. From everywhere, Park smiled. Put them on screen. The main display filled with images. Ships. Hundreds of ships. Not human vessels, but Mirren cruisers. Thos. Destroyers. Keldy transports armed with makeshift weapons. Ships from a dozen other species. Some old and battered, some barely capable of flight. They were all jumping to human space. They were all coming to fight. A message came through from a Mirren captain named Loro. His ship was ancient, held together by patches and prayers, but his voice was strong. We heard your message, humans. You said stand with you. We are standing. Our ships are not powerful. Our weapons are not strong. But we would rather die free than live as slaves. Tell us where to fight. Similar messages poured in. Species that had been enemies for centuries were now flying side by side. Factory workers who had never held a weapon were piloting cargo ships loaded with explosives. Servants who had spent their whole lives bowing were now standing up. President Lee's voice came over the command channel. Admiral Park, as of this moment, you have command of the Allied fleet. 3,200 ships from 47 species. We are no longer alone. Park looked at the numbers and felt something he had not expected. Pride. Not in humanity's achievement, but in the galaxy's choice. These beings did not have to come. They were outmatched and outgunned, but they came anyway because one word had shown them something they had forgotten. Hope. All ships, Park announced. Form up around Earth. Defensive positions. When the Council arrives, they will see something they never imagined. A galaxy standing together. The Allied fleet arranged itself in a massive formation. Human ships took the center, their advanced technology providing a backbone for the defense. Mirran vessels clustered on the flanks, their pilots knowing they would likely die but refusing to run. Thoth ships spread out in hunting packs, ready to strike where needed. Keldy transports hung back, their cargo holds filled with desperate weapons. And then the Grand Armada arrived. 2,000 Council ships dropped out of lightspeed and immediately stopped. High Arbiter Mora stared at the tactical display in disbelief. "What is this?" she whispered. She had expected 80 human ships. Maybe a few more. Instead, she saw thousands of vessels from every corner of the galaxy. Species that had been paying tribute for millennia were now pointing weapons at their masters. The impossible was happening before her eyes. Admiral Park opened a communication channel to the Council flagship. His face appeared on Mora's screen. "High Arbiter," he said calmly. "You came to destroy humanity. But look around. This is not humanity you face. This is everyone you have ever oppressed, every species you have ever enslaved, every world you have ever conquered. They are all here, and they all have something to say to you." He paused, letting her see the Allied fleet spread across her tactical display. 12,000 cycles, Park continued. That is how long you have ruled through fear. You demanded tribute because you believed strength comes from taking. You were wrong. True strength comes from standing together, from lifting each other up, from fighting for something greater than yourself. Behind him, the Allied fleet held position. 3,000 ships, united not by conquest but by choice. Not by fear but by hope. "We said no, because we knew something you forgot," Park said. "The universe does not belong to those who demand. It belongs to those who stand together. Today, that is us. All of us." Mora's hands trembled on her command chair. She had lived for centuries. She had conquered worlds. She had never felt fear like this. Counselor Bren appeared on her private channel. His old face was weary but thoughtful. "High Arbiter," he said quietly. "Look at them. Really look. Even if we win today, what will we rule? They will never stop fighting now. Every world will resist. Every tribute payment will be delayed or denied. We will spend the next 1,000 years putting out fires instead of collecting wealth." "Are you suggesting we surrender?" Mora demanded. "I am suggesting we consider what victory actually means." Bren replied. "We might destroy this fleet. We might burn Earth. But we have already lost something we can never recover. We have lost the belief that we cannot be challenged. That fear is gone forever. Nothing we do today will bring it back." One by one, other counselors joined the channel. Vrix of the Corim was silent. Kelos, who had started everything by delivering the tribute demand, spoke first. "The human was right," he said. "They are not like the others. They never will be. And now, they have taught that spirit to half the galaxy. Perhaps it is time to consider a different path." Mora looked at the Allied fleet. She saw Mirran ships that should have been in her factories, Thoth vessels that should have been mining her asteroids, Keldy transports that should have been carrying her goods. All of them ready to fight. All of them ready to die. And she saw the human ships in the center. Small but deadly. Unpredictable but precise. The spark that had started this fire. "If we fight," she said slowly, "we lose everything. Even if we win the battle." Counselor Bren nodded. "Yes, High Arbiter, that is exactly right." One by one, Council ships began powering down their weapons. Admiral Park watched the tactical display and felt the tension drain from his bridge. Around him, officers started to breathe again. On ships throughout the Allied fleet, beings of 100 species realized that the war was ending. Not with fire, not with destruction, but with something unprecedented. Peace. Mora's face appeared on Park's screen. She looked old, tired, defeated. Not by weapons but by truth. "You have won, human, she said. Not because your fleet is stronger. Because your idea is stronger. We built our empire on fear. You built your alliance on hope. Fear fades. Hope grows. She paused, her 4 eyes meeting his 2. What happens now? Park thought about his answer carefully. He could demand tribute from the council. He could break apart their empire and rule the pieces. He could become exactly what he had fought against. Instead, he said something else. Now we build something new. Together. No more masters and slaves. No more tribute and punishment. A council of equals, where every species has a voice. Where cooperation replaces conquest. It will not be easy. There will be disagreements. There will be conflicts. But they will be solved with words, not weapons. Mora was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. Very well, we accept. 6 months later, the Galactic Council dissolved. In its place rose the Allied Assembly, with representatives from every species, including the Villani and the Droth, and all the others who had once been rulers. They sat beside the Mirren and the Thos and the Keldi, equals at last. Admiral Park retired to a small farm in the mountains of Korea. He grew vegetables and watched the stars at night. Sometimes reporters came to ask him about the war. They always asked the same question. What made you say that one word? Park would smile and look up at the sky. They expected fear. He would answer. Every species they had ever met showed fear. They did not know how to handle anything else. So, I gave them something new. Something honest. One word that carried the weight of 8 billion people who would rather die than kneel. But were you not afraid? The reporters would ask. Of course I was afraid, Park admitted. Only a fool faces death without fear. But there are things more important than fear. Freedom. Dignity. The future of your children. When you fight for those things, fear does not disappear. But it stops being the most important thing. He would pause then, looking at the stars, thinking about all the beings across the galaxy who were now living free because of one moment of courage. No, he would say softly. That word was not just a refusal. It was a promise. A promise that humanity would never accept tyranny. And it turned out, we were not the only ones who wanted to make that promise. We just had to be the first to say it out loud. Across the galaxy, civilizations rebuilt. Trade routes opened. Knowledge flowed freely between species. There were problems. Of course, old hatreds took time to heal. New disagreements arose. But they were handled through negotiation, not conquest. And on every world, in every language, the story was told. The story of a small species from a blue planet who received a demand for tribute and answered with one word, no. A word that frightened the Galactic Council. A word that freed the galaxy. A word that changed everything. The stars had always called to humanity. Now humanity had answered, and the universe would never be the same again.